Hey, how's it going? I'm Jonathan Bailor, and I am here with my friends Trina and Mariah, and we are going to be talking about an amazing breakthrough form of exercise that is specifically engineered to cause a metabolic change in our body, to heal our hormones, lower our set point, and reverse and help prevent diabetes. And it's extremely exciting because traditionally when we're told about exercise, it's either about building muscle or burning calories. And I'm not here to say that either of those things are bad or wrong. I'm just here to say that we're here to lower our set points, we're here to heal our hormones, and we're here to prevent and to treat diabetes. And just like there's a certain form of exercise that makes you better at golf, you do sort of practice your golf swing. If you want to become a better cyclist, you cycle. If you want to lower your set point and prevent and reverse diabetes, we want to do a specific form of exercise known as eccentric resistance training. Eccentric. Does that all sound good so far? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I want to just give a little bit of a background, and then I just want to jump into some demonstrations. So first, you might be wondering, what does eccentric exercise mean? Well, your muscle actually has 3 different ways it can contract. So traditionally you hear about lifting weights, right? Lifting weights. What we're going to talk about here today is lowering weights, interestingly enough. And before we go any further, I just said lifting weights, and you might be thinking, I want to lift weights because I don't want to get big and bulky. This is sometimes a concern people have. And just real quick, because I don't want you to be afraid of what we're going to do, because what we're going to do is one of the most potent forms of therapy that you can ever engage in for your health long term. There is a gene in your body called GDF8, and it actually limits how big your muscles can grow. And females, and the vast majority of males, physically, genetically, cannot build bulky muscles. And it's important to know that the average female has about the same level of testosterone as about an 8 or 10-year-old boy. And that's not enough testosterone to build muscle, like bulky muscle, no matter how hard you resistance train. So I want you to feel fully empowered to be strong and to be just sassy and just punch diabetes in the face, because I don't want anything to hold you back. So does that maybe address any concerns you might have about resistance training or weightlifting?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because it seems a little strange to me now, but my mother tells me a story about how when she was in university, my mother's in her 70s, she was not even allowed where they weight trained. Because back then, women were taught weight training is actually bad for you. And weight training is profoundly good for you, especially the way we're going to talk about it here. And you don't even need weights. You can just use body weight. But anyway, I was talking about eccentric resistance training. So your muscles can contract in 3 ways. This is called concentric. So when it actually contracts, that's concentric. Mm-hmm. When you hold something, like you're holding a gallon of milk stationary, that's called isometric. And when you lower down or extend the muscle, that's eccentric. So if you're doing a bicep curl, this is concentric, holding it isometric, releasing it eccentric. Why does that matter? What's really, really cool is that your muscles, they can generate about 40% more force eccentrically than they can concentrically. Meaning that you are literally about 40% stronger when you, and I know it sounds weird to say contract extending, but if your muscle wasn't contracting when you were doing this, your arm would just flop down, right? And why this is really powerful is, let's say, for example, that a push-up is an exercise that maybe you've never been able to do in the past. Well, you might not be able to push yourself up because that's a concentric movement, but you might be able to lower yourself down, an eccentric movement. And by developing strength eccentrically, you will actually strengthen the entire muscle while generating a tremendous hormonal response in your body. And this is something that, in the past you might have said, I just can't do push-ups. But now we can provide a methodology where you can perform that exercise and myriad other exercises in a specific way that anyone, anywhere, at any level of experience can do to help cause a hormonal reaction that reverses and prevents diabetes. Is that cool? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So awesome. let's put this into practice. And one of the reasons, again, that the reason we want to contract our muscles as forcefully as possible, or we want to use the eccentric movement to make sure that we tax the muscle as deeply as possible and as safely as possible, is most people are familiar, well, it would be kind of impossible not to be familiar with the fact that you have different muscle groups on your body and they do different things. For example, your bicep, that I was pointing to earlier, does this. And your quadricep does this. Or actually, it does this. Your hamstring does this. Yeah. So your quadricep does this. So no matter how much I do this, I'm not ever going to activate that muscle, obviously, right? But what most people don't know, and this is really where profound hormonal benefit is found, within all of your muscles, there's 4 different types of fibers that make up the muscle. So whether it's your bicep, your tricep, your quadricep, your hamstring, your gluteals, within that muscle is what's called your type 1A muscle fibers, your type 2A muscle fibers, your type 2X muscle fibers, and your type 2B muscle fibers. So let's just imagine that those muscle fibers were sitting on the ground here this way. So type 1A, 2A, 2X, 2B. These muscle fibers generate a little bit of force for a long period of time. So these are the muscle fibers that allow you to walk around all day, just like this, just like that. And you can do a little bit of force for a long period of time. So a little bit of force, long period of time. Lots of force, short period of time. So if the only form of exercise you ever do is this, not only will you look really cool, but you could do that for literally 20 hours, every day of the week. And all of these muscle fibers would never get activated. Ever. Ever. Why does that matter? Well, inherently, you're like, well, isn't it better to work more muscle fibers than less? I mean, we're all kind of like, the reason we want to work our leg muscles, either by doing cycling, is because you work more muscles, you get more results. Bigger muscle, bigger result, smaller muscle, smaller result. But what's amazing is researchers have found that when we activate these muscle fibers, and like the most forceful ones, specifically type 2B, these muscle fibers historically only ever got activated when we needed to generate a tremendous amount of force. And usually, the only reason a human being needs to generate a tremendous amount of force for a short period of time is a crisis. Like a tiger jumps out of the, and so instead of doing this, I'm just gathering my berries, you're like, oh, a tiger, woo! So right then, for a burst, for a short period of time, a lot of force. Okay, why does that matter? In order to generate a tremendous amount of force for a short period of time, your body has to like sound the hormonal alarm, and it has to cause what's called an anabolic cascade in your body. So things like adrenaline, norepinephrine, epinephrine, testosterone, less in women, more in men, all get released simultaneously because your body's like, holy moly, fire alarm's been pulled. And what this does, especially from a diabetes perspective, is it helps to flush glucose or sugar out of our muscles, helps to clear that out, helps to clear out insulin, and your body's like, batten down the hatches, woo, 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 emergency, emergency. So when we do that, we get this tremendous effect in our body, this tremendous hormonal effect that, remember, could never be achieved, ever, 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 by this. And the reason I'm doing this ridiculous movement is if you go to the gym, what do you see most people doing? Stuff like this, right? They're just, I'm gonna lift my little weights and do this and talk and text and do.